Trent Haga wrote the script.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about how you came upon this script and how this project got developed.
Well, Gotti and I've been friends with Gotti since 7th grade. We made movies together. There was a certain point where we had been developing lots of stuff, and it just sort of was like this never-ending development phase. We were always sort of waiting for other people to, make your movie happen. And we were like, well, let's find something that we can make on a certain budget that we can control. And he had a friend, Trent, who he knew in New York. He worked on some trauma movies with Trent back in the day. And so we went to his house, and Trent is a prolific writer. He's got 1 million scripts, and he had all these scripts. And we said, oh, let's show us your best stuff. And he had this one script that was on the top of the shelf. And we're like, well, what's that one? He's like, oh, you can't do that. No one wants to do this one. We're like, well, let's look at this one. So he gave us the script. We went home. We were ready, and we're like, wow, this is pretty fucked up. But can we do this? We couldn't stop thinking about it. And after a couple of days, we're like, I think this is the one. It sort of sticks with you. And it took about 6 months to convince him to let us do it, because it was sort of his baby, and he loved it, and everyone told him it was terrible and awful, and it would never get made, and he was a bad person for even thinking about it. And so he finally let us do it. We optioned it from him, and then we just started the process of trying to raise the money and to make it.
What is the backstory of the Dead Girls? You didn't want us to connect with her?
Well, the fundamental thing is this is a story about the kids. And we definitely talked about the Dead Girl, and and everyone sort of had different ideas, and we worked with Trent for about a year on the script, and there was definitely some drafts that we sort of incorporated, some backstory, but the truth is she's sort of a MacGuffin in a way, and it's almost better for you to, if you go with a movie, whatever you decide makes sense of why she's there is much more interesting, I think, than anything we would have told you. And then again, it's about these kids. It's sort of like we told the actors on the set that this is like a pot of gold. I mean, do you keep the money or do you don't keep the money? I mean, it's not like it's a MacGuffin. So it's not about her. So that either works for her or it doesn't. So. Pot of gold meaning that not to. But the idea was just don't get freaked out by the what's going on or whatever, because I think for a lot of young people you act first and think about it later. And I know that we obviously not to this extreme, and this is hyper real, but it was that sort of idea. I mean we all do. If you ran into it, if you saw a big bag of money as a kid, you know what's wrong, but you probably take it and then worry about it later and wonder and we didn't want it, we didn't want those other, the other stuff to get in the way. So.
One, soundtrack. Second is where was most of this shot, as far as I guess mostly the steam pipe corridor.
That was all location in LA in an abandoned hospital that everybody uses. I mean, it was the first season of ER used it, and the boiler room that we shot in was where Freddy Krueger died, and I mean, it's been around forever, and just sort of how you dress it and use it, and it's a real abandoned hospital. It's pretty creepy. It closed in the early 80s, I guess, and there's still a room with everyone's files. It's perfectly preserved. Literally, when it closed, they just left, and you can look at people's files, and it's pretty stunning that this is all. It's creepy, but yeah, all location. But the movie's very divisive. It still is. I'm sure this audience, there's people that are like, what is this? So we get it. You either sort of go with it and it's okay, and it's not like we know it's not. But I think sort of in our defense, we always read when people hate it, they really hate it, and there's obviously a lot of emotional reaction. There's just taboo-ness about it, and it's pretty awful. But I would just say that I think if you sit back and think about it. We were pretty careful, we were pretty thoughtful in how you can approach this kind of a story. I think that was our intent. We certainly didn't make something that we thought would shock, or how can we freak people out, or when you think about it, you don't really see that much. It's not particularly graphic, especially with this sexual stuff and everything. That was all very intentional. It's just pretty fucking disturbing because of what's going on, and their sort of callous nature, and sort of how no one sort of is even questioning it, and that's what's disturbing about it. But we thought that was really relatable in sort of a universal way for, you know, young males growing up, and you know, again in a hyper real way, but you know, we just sort of could relate to it, the darker recesses of sort of someone trying to decide who they're going to be and what they stand for, and playing around with all that sort of subtext of sexuality and everything else. Anyway.
Like, I don't know how the script read, but I almost could see it borderline being like horror comedy. You guys shot it very specifically horror, which, well, I mean, what was the conscious choice in that?
It definitely wasn't comedy. I mean, Trent, I will say the original script was much harsher.
Right.
I mean, we worked on it with him for about a year, and for example, in his original script, you know, the Joanne, the high school girl, there were no scenes between her and Ricky. The gas station scene didn't, in the original script, in the gas station scene, they killed a girl. We sort of saw the script, and we were you know, one thing that he was you know, one thing he didn't want us is to not sort of, he thought we would sort of couldn't do certain things in the script if we wanted to make it, which was his big fear. So I think we kept sort of the core of what was unmakeable about it, but then brought in sort of the coming-of-age story that we sort of saw in this. So yeah, it's a horror movie. I will say that going into it, we didn't really look at it as a horror movie. We thought it was a horrific movie with some horror elements, but it was always a coming-of-age story for us. And our reference, you know, our first cut of the movie, we like, you know, used the soundtrack to Stand By Me, and you know, we thought of things like Over the Edge and movies like that. And that's why we chose the songs we chose and things like that. We just, you know, we didn't really think of it as a, you know, how are we going to do a scare here, or, you know, it's, you know, that kind of thing. So.
What are you guys working on next?
We are adapting this this Danish movie called Merc, which I don't think is available in the States, but we sort of did a re-envisioning of it for a company that just did a haunting in Connecticut. It's not a horror movie. It's a really twisted, dark thriller. But yeah, that's what we're doing. We actually just turned the script like a week ago, and we're hoping to direct that in the fall. It's pretty interesting. If you can find Merc, or M-U-R-K, it's similar, but you know, Americanized.
How did you audition the role of the dead girl?
We got really lucky. I mean, you know, the first thing we did is we had a casting call, and you know, all the, you know, this is being in LA. You can imagine who showed up, and you know, all the typical. And we were just like, we don't know what we're gonna do, because we did not want. I mean, it was, you know, there's nothing titillating about the dead girl. It's not like, this is not meant to titillate. It's not sort of like lingering shots to sort of turn anyone on. But when you read the script and when you sort of hear the log line, you sort of think, oh, this is gonna be like this is another one of those movies. But I don't think that was, you know, that's what was up there. But anyway, those kind of people showed up, and we were like, this is going to be awful. And then, of course, you know, this is a character with no lines and is naked throughout the whole movie, full body, and there's only certain kinds of people that'll do that as well. And we were like, we don't want to work with, I don't want to be on set for, you know, 20 days with those kind of people either. No offense to them. So we really didn't know what we were going to do. And then we had a friend who said, I know somebody, like, she lives in, you know, Detroit, and I think she might get this. Really? Like, you know, where can we FedEx a script? So we sent the script out, and she read it. She called us, Jenny, and she said, I really get this. I really like this. Like, I get what you guys are trying to do. I think this is really interesting. You know, I have no problem with anything. And then, you know, have you ever acted before? No. So we had her. We said, can you videotape yourself sort of acting like an animal? Just, you know, whatever your instincts are. She's had these great instincts, and she's got a great look. I mean, she's got a really fabulous face, and she's really beautiful without sort of being, you know, playboy-y or whatever, you know, centerfoldy. And she was great, and she was so excited and so willing to do the movie that she was like, you know, whatever it takes to, I just want to do this movie. And she like brought herself down to LA. You know, like, well, we can't really fly you down, and you know, trying to be good producers. And she was like, oh, I'll get myself there. You know, she put me up, and so she was really great. She was a real partner in the movie, and if anything, she was the easiest person to work with. I mean, so we really got lucky, and we know it, and we tell her every day, like, thank you, because the movie would have never happened. I mean, without it, you know, it's crazy.